What's up, everybody? My name's Indy, and I'm echoing there. That's fine. My name's Indy, and that gentleman right next to me is Mr. Jay Powell from Powell Group Consulting, and this welcome to Indie Game Business. Today we have Barak David, and we are talking about growth strategies to keep your studio business.
Thank you, Indy, and welcome, Barak. It's good to have you on here. You and I have circled each other for years, but we finally got a chance to catch up and talk a couple of months ago, and so wanted to have you on here because it's one of those great stories of success in the industry, and hoping you can share some stuff along the way. So we'll start out very basically. And so how did you get into the industry initially, and walk us through your career to this point?
So, as you already maybe guess or not, so I'm from Israel originally, and my career started when I was in the army, so in a cyber unit of the IDF. I was there an officer for a few years, and then from there I jumped to the high-tech career. I did many roles as I grew up from the development, from the technical side, so I'm a computer engineer. I grew to a role as a group manager, CTO, chief innovation. I was working in a few Israelis, startup and corporate. And then I had a feeling that I need to do a shift in my career. I understand that the business is more interesting me and less the technology. And also, I really wanted to work in a B2C industry, and the gaming sounds amazing, basically. And I think it's one of the amazing industry that there is. And then I joined Playtika as a director of operation. And after I did my role there, I joined Murka as a COO, and I'm currently a COO of Murka after it was acquired by the Blackstone Group. And I'm leading the day-to-day running the company, so responsibility end-to-end. This is, in a one sentence about myself.
So tell folks a little bit about Murka, because that's going to play into a lot of what we talk about today. We're going to be looking at growth strategies, and at the end of the day, it's like how you stay alive in this industry for 5, 10, 15, 20 years. But give us a little bit of background on Murka and what they first started doing versus what they're doing, today.
So Murka is in the base is a Ukrainian company. It was founded 10 years ago from the social casino industry. From the beginning, 10 years ago, there was a lot of innovation. The market was, in the start of the start. And they start rolling out really, like you can imagine, from the garage, like steps to step with developing new games. And they start growing. One of the current most successful games that we have is a scatter slot that is something about 5 years live and growing, and is the top chart in many ranking. And after it came, also right now we have a title of Slotsera and Infinity Slot. So really it's like small and family company that started and grow step by step. A very big milestone it was one year ago. It was acquired by the Blackstone Group, a very big investment, and it's created a lot of vibe and of innovation of business and to do things even better than what was done until now. Just for understanding, Murka today is approximately 600 people. We have 5 offices around Europe, 4 or 5 main titles, generating hundreds of millions per year. So just in February, we were ranking as the 20th place in the EMEA publisher by revenue. So I can say that things were great, and now we're in a phase that we are turning to be more international and international standard. We are growing and going this direction.
So, sorry there. So what are some of the key aspects that has sustained the company for so long? Everything moves in this industry. I know 10 years ago, we were actually getting towards the twilight, the end of the big, I don't know if you want to call it the big fish games era, where the casual market was completely dominated by these $20, free to play demo. And then, you buy the whole thing hidden object game. Now in the casual market, that's pretty much all free to play. And we've had a huge growth in the casino titles that you're doing right now. But, what were the key things that you've done along the way for the last 10 years to keep Murka moving forward and growing like this?
So I think that the main part was about innovation and product innovation, and that was one of the dominated part that driven Murka for many years, and really like engage based user that stay with the company for very long. We kind of have a niche inside the market, which the main characteristic, if we can say that in the social casino, it 70-30, 65-35 women and men. So we have kind of 50-50. We have kind of special niche. It's a progress game. It's kind of unique in the industry. And I think that what we are doing in the last year, which is to create a massive growth. So we craft a business strategy with the understanding and start developing many new games with the understanding that we must develop more games. We must develop and create a new genres and extend our portfolio above social casino.
So yeah, just our usual note, if anyone's out there, whether you're watching on YouTube or Twitter or LinkedIn or Facebook or wherever we all are on any given day, if you've got questions, this is, completely interactive. If you've got questions along the way for Barak, toss them up in chat. We will see them on our lovely StreamYard dashboard, and we'll get it answered, live for you. So, 10 years ago when you came in as COO, did you have a specific growth strategy?
Just to make sure we understand, I joined Murka not 3 years ago, so I joined it in the last year.
Oh, okay.
So, yeah.
All right.
So I can say what we are doing since then in more details, and it was driven. First of all, it was driven by the acquisition of Blackstone. That insert a lot of, first of all, enthusiastic, but again more business oriented to really kind of family company that driven and start growing. And from that point, we craft a business strategy that basically was driven by horizontal and vertical growth. So first of all, we start in the horizontal way. In the vertical way, we start developing more layers in our current game. We added more layers of long-term retention features. We added more layers of live ops. We adapted our economy, and basically we created a lot of innovation to our current products, which lead to a growth of almost 50% since the beginning of the year, which some of it, of course, were driven by the COVID, but some of it are still with us and was driven mainly because of our innovation in the game. So this was the first layer. The second layer was to open our Accelerator Division, which is separate division from the company that basically acting as a small startup and developing frequently many small games. We launched since the beginning of the year almost 3 games, 2 from the social casino, 1 is more casual, and we are aiming to grow there. So we are aiming to at least release another 2 games until the end of the year. On parallel, we open our casual division that will generate frequently many more casual games like board games and so on. So we are starting to put a lot of pieces in the puzzle in order to create growth and in order to continue what we have been doing and take our expertise to another spot. So to your question, it's really about crafting a strategy. I believe that many companies are not doing it, and as you mentioned, start digging and rolling around and see where it's take them. So we have another completely another plan. We craft a strategy, we follow it, we adapt it accordingly, and basically we are driven growth step by step based on this plan.
It's interesting because it's one of those things that, and you brought it up with COVID. There's so many things on a normal year that, can toss toss a plan to the wind. And then you have the pandemic like we've had it this year. How do you effectively build a strategy, but still, have some flexibility in there in case you have big market changes?
So this is the interesting part. So I think that first of all, in order to do it correctly, you must adapt your structure, your company structure, to support your strategy. And you need to have a business strategy which is, let's say, 85% accurate and to follow it. And then you need your 15-20% force, which will be agile inside the company to support changes. For example, if you now have a game that need to push, you can relocate this team. And I think this is the main point. So first of all, not to get in love in your plan, and to understand that everything need to be scalable and changeable, but to have your boundaries, because things that can happen to many companies is lack of focus. And when you have lack of focus and you try too many streams, and then you are trying, and then you are hesitating, and then you are moving to another place, it can create a frustration because nothing is growing. So you need kind of your boundaries, your limit, but in the same time, you need to keep your plan agile enough. So this is basically how I see things.
Right. And that's a good idea because it is. You never know how things are going to affect it. I mean, and we saw the pandemic has just created a gigantic market for a lot of these games, especially social casino games. I got a friend of mine who runs a social casino game, and he sent me a text one day, and he said, "Did the U.S. just get their revenue or the support check from the government?" And I was like, "Yeah, how did you know?" He goes, "We saw our revenue just absolutely spike on Monday morning," and he's like, "I figured that's what it was," and it's like it is. We have that wonderful person in Twitch again. Sorry. So how did you adjust over the last year? Well, not year, but 8 or 9 months to what's going on with the pandemic? What kind of challenge did that throw into the mix?
So I think that in the beginning, it's created a lot of uncertainty. We didn't know how it will affect, if it will be for positive or negative. Of course, we created a plan to each scenario. We didn't know what is going to happen with the UA. We was not sure what will happen with the user activity, payments, things like that. But we were ready. The moment we saw the spike, we put all our teams to work to release faster our plans. And basically, we were like working around the clock 24/7, I can say, in those months, in order to provide the requirement that was from the user, because people play much more. And if they're playing much faster, you need to provide more content. And so I think that we shift in this point many of our resources in order to support the growth of these titles. And yes, of course, it was great. And I think that for the people also, it was great because they had the games, it gives you a comfort when you are sitting alone, a lot of uncertainty in your life, what will happen, and it gives you like the few minutes of comfort in your day. And I think it's amazing from the business perspective. So of course the growth was amazing, and we supported it with all our tools, but we need to see the other direction, because after the growth coming the slight decrease. And then as a business, you need to know to adapt your your plans, and to know also not to get frustrated when you see the numbers are kind of still high but getting back to normal. And I think that I talked with many teams in the mobile industry, and I think this is something that we are all kind of suffering right now, because everyone want to keep this high that was in Q2, but it's not easy, and you must be not frustrated, but to take advantage of it and not to take it for the negative side, because it might happen.
Do you think overall you have acquired more users that are going to stick with you? Because we know that the longer things like this happen, I think that it's not just the mobile industry. The whole industry is waiting for, that rubber band effect from that revenue to get pulled back and everything to start going in the other direction. But do you think at the end of the day, you're going to end up with more users than you had originally, or you think it's going to completely go back to normal or even less than normal?
So I think that right now we are kind of post-COVID, so we can already say that I don't want to speak for everyone, but Q3 was not dramatically, but lower than Q2. And you have these two effects. One is the summer, that is basically a more, let's say, lower season. And from the other end, you have this post-COVID. So it was like extreme summer for people to get around and to, to enjoy the outside. And I think that the KPIs are now starting to stabilize after the grow and then the slight drop. So I think that the main test for the industry to see how much have left from this growth is to see in Q4 what will happen. We know that in US we have the election now. We know that it might be a second wave of COVID. So anything can go wrong. But I believe that companies that know how to save this growth and know how to take so-called advantage of the boost that the COVID gave will be able to create this growth, and after a slight drop in Q3 we will be able to grow again.
Yeah, I thought it was good for you all that you feel that you're on the other side of COVID. We're not feeling that so much right now over here. So over the last, throughout the life of Murka, and then obviously for having a first year as a COO in the industry, you've had a hell of one. What are aside from the pandemic, what are some of the big changes that you've seen, that the company's seen, and how did y'all adapt to them?
So first of all, yes, it was a very challenging and it was I think amazing experience. So first of all, the world is changing. Yes, we can talk about the operational things that lead us to people work from home. You are locking down 5 offices and you have 600 employees working from home, which is not going to change so fast. And I think that everyone in the even high-tech industry understand that the rollback will be very, very slow. So we change the way we are working. And I think that there is a big challenge of keeping the engagement of the people. So we were kind of 3 months, all the offices around the world was closed. And basically we communicated only by, as we are communicating right now. And I think in the beginning it was great, by the way, because people basically didn't have a lot what to do. They work harder, so their engagement was even better. And then after a while, you see that this coffee break conversation, the lunch together, that create, in the end of the day, people talking. This create the innovation, the creativity, because the good idea come bottom up. And that is why we started coming back to office as an optional. And right now we implemented an hybrid structure when people are working 2-3 days and have the ability to be very flexible. And I think this will stay with us for many, many years, because the necessity of offices start decreasing because the world understands that we can work even without it and work very well. So if we are talking about challenges of this year, this was a challenge, but also again, create an opportunity to decrease cost and things like that. So everything is going to both directions.
Are you all going to keep the hybrid model? Or are you going to look into going back to the office full time, or is it going to be, more remote work? How do you see that playing out? We see a lot of different answers and a lot of different questions from folks in the industry. How do you see it working out for you all?
So I believe in personal relationship, and I think that people should have a place, even a fun place, get out of home, talk about each other, and basically they will have a lot of energy from coming back to office. I can tell that after the end of, let's say, the quarantine, we asked our people, and we all agreed together about hybrid model, because this was the demand, and because in some different places people are still a little bit they have this kind of fear, and then you need to work in capsules, and if something will happen in the office. So it's kind of hybrid model right now, which is very flexible, and we are really like open to our the suggestion of the employee, and basically it's as you feel right, and you as an employee have the ability to decide if you want to come or not. I think that going only to offline and working from home is a little bit risky, because in the end of the day, we're in the gaming industry. We need to innovate, we need to collaborate, and when you have people sitting next to you, it's much easy. And also the connection to the company and the friendship that create and things like that are working much better. So I don't believe that offices will disappear, and I don't think that there are companies that will close offices for good and will not open it again at all. I believe that the hybrid model will stay with us for at least 2 years, and even more, because 2 years is a period that can change how you see things. And after it, we will need to wait and see. But I think that still the connection of people to a workplace is something that important.
No, I mean, I agree. I mean, I've been working from a home office for a decade at this point, but you have to get out. If it's nothing else, for a change of scenery, to see something different other than your own four walls, for the past year, like we have now. All right. So we have a question in chat. Was it John Ingesser from LinkedIn was curious, when you were talking about the size of the teams and how you've got multiple teams and you take 10 or 15% of them, kind of keep them agile. How big are the teams that you typically have on your games?
So it depends of the size of the game. I can say that if a very small game, we can have like even 5 people that working as a super small team. In our Accelerator Division, we have 30 people that working as a commando unit, and they have all the expertise. I think that the ability to, and we have, of course, okay, I will give a little bit better answer. So you have layers. You have the marketing that basically give, provide service, let's say, to the game. We have the infrastructure. We have all the analytics and the BI and all of this, which this is shared resources. And on top of it, you have your studios that basically we have sizes of games, and according to the size of the game, we have the teams, which divided to the R&D teams and the products that working basically as a joint force of teams. So I believe that in the first period of a game, and basically if you're talking on a simple game, casual game, it can be up to 5 people, because each people that you are adding complexity, and then the efficiency is dropping. But if we are talking about developing a super complicated slots game, you might need few development team, and you might need more. So basically, you need to give the studios that will work and provide them shared services that basically are the knowledge of the company.
So, what do you consider a small game that's being done by one of these 5-person teams?
So, small team, you want to talk about from revenue perspective, from DAO perspective, or from technology perspective?
Technology games. We don't need to go too deep into the revenue side of it, but is one of the social casino games, is a slot game a small one, or is that much bigger?
So when we are talking about slots game, I can say that all around the industry, it's kind of heavy teams that can be even hundreds of people. We at Murka working a little bit in more agile ways, so we have a smaller team, but few dozen of people that basically divided to two main categories. You have the slots development department, and you have the feature department that work together. And this can be even up to 100 people in the more dominant game. And on top of it, you have the layer of analytics and monetization, which working with the tool that the game provides. So it can be even up to 100 people that working on the same game. But if you are talking about scales of a few millions monthly active users and a few millions of monthly revenue, so of course you need a team to support.
So, I mean, you brought up a good point with the business intelligence and the analytics, and that's such an absolute key part of especially mobile games now, but free to play in general. What indicators do you generally look for in the analytics that you get when you're planning your strategy out, a year, 3 years, 5 years? What are the main things, the main KPIs and the main market points that you're looking for?
So basically, this is the $1 million question. It's so I can say that as a management, you will look at more dominant KPIs, as for example, DAO revenue, ARPDAO, of course, CAC CPI, retention, and then you will calculate the ROI and the payback. Payback is our main prediction model to understand where we are standing. So this is, let's say, for more management, board's perspective. But when we are digging into the game, so basically today we have a super strong data and analytics department that analyze every step in the game on the level of how much time to close an in-app, and if there is an engagement with the feature, how long the engagement, and according to it, we are doing many adaptation in the game, because in the end of the day, you want to create a balance between retention and monetization. And in order to have the good retention and DAO, but the revenue that you need. So you need to find this balance, and in order to find this balance is in a very complicated ecosystem, you must be able to metrics everything. And when you're adding a live ops, it needs to be take into consideration all the other metrics of your internal economy in order to not break something. So I can say that today we are super data driven, and we measure and test everything along the way in order to create a better user experience to our player. That it's even starting from the UA. So we have a customer journey from the UA part, which I can discuss later what we are doing there, up to the engagement in the game, and we can predict even from the UA part what will be your engagement. So this creates you a lot of models to work. And to the second part of your question, you are talking about prediction for 3 years, for 5 years. So, with all that happened this year, you can understand that it's very, very complicated. That there are many companies that know really, precisely to test what will happen in 5 years, So we are trying to plan 2 years in advance, and basically more accurate 1 year in advance. And even in the quarter level, we are doing adaptation according to the matrix and according to what we see in the industry and what we see in our KPIs.
Yeah, I had a client that came to me a couple months ago, and he's like, "I'm just a little concerned about our revenue, 12 months from now." And I started laughing, and I'm like, "I'm concerned about revenue 6 months from now. So if you're good for a year, trust me, you're doing fine." That's
I can say that I'm concerned on the revenue tomorrow morning. So, because in the end of the day, in our industry, and you need to be very relaxed, it's kind of wave, yes? You cannot grow all the time, and it's kind of wave. You just need to save that, to be sure that this wave is in a growing tendency, yes? And the dynamic overall are growing. And I can say that if there was happiness and let's say excitement in Q2, in Q3 it's got much relaxed, and now in Q4 you want to boost it again in order to at least compare to what you had. So this year I believe that will be a great year for every mobile gaming that was operated since the beginning of the year. If not, it will be a little bit weird, and they need to ask themselves what they could have done better, because this year created a lot of opportunities. I'm more concerned of 2021 because, industry are tend to grow, and it's all about the money. We are in a business session. So it's about the money, it's about investment, it's about create a consistent growth. And after a boom, which was natural, but a little bit even not natural, it will be very complicated for companies that will not know to adapt their strategy and to scale their portfolio to create a more growth in the following, let's say even in 2021.
So Athena Alliance from Twitch had a really good question. She said she's interested in your thoughts on free-to-play mobile games from the East. Genshin Impact was mobile, and it's now available on Steam and console. What makes companies in China and Japan able to have that business model? And I'll add to that, have you all looked beyond mobile into bringing the games to, PC and console?
So personally, and as a company, we are not doing so. We had a discussion about it in kind of January, in the beginning of the year, and we decided to skip this. I think that in the Western world, it will be more and more mobile, and this is like trend that we can see in the last few years, and it's becoming, the phone is something that everyone have now, and it will go more and more and more. I believe that in some point the PC will disappear, and we will have tablet and mobile. No, because I can say that I'm basically using tablet for my day-to-day work. So, and 80% of my work I can do in my mobile. So I don't see it as let's say, for more free-to-play game and more casual and, let's say, easy games to play. I think that the mobile is the dominant. But, when we are talking about the Asian market, we are talking about India, about China, is a very big industry for themselves. Yes, the India market is one of the growing market in the last year, and the prediction that they will grow even more. So this is the most growing market in the world. And they are a little bit behind in few things. So I think that for them it might make sense. I'm not an expert of those markets, I must confess. But for now, and even now, we are working on 5 platforms. iOS, Android, Amazon, Facebook, and Windows. But now when we are developing new games, we are basically working in 2 platforms, which is iOS and Android. So it's all about cost effective. So if you think that you have enough potential on those market, you can scale. For us, and again, it's the same point that I mentioned in the beginning, to keep a limit. Yes, you need a good strategy with a lot of, option to scale, but you still need your limit in order to not lose focus at all.
All right, so I'm going to deviate here and ask you the question that I always love to ask people who work in the social casino space. Why is it that people pay real money to play slots on their tablets that are never going to pay them real money out like they do in Vegas?
Look, I will answer you in a very political way. When you are going to see a movie, you are not earning something like physical from it, right? You are earning fun, entertainment. You have a good afternoon. You see a movie. You are eating popcorn. That make you fun. This is the same things. We are providing entertainment. And people enjoy it from the excitement, they enjoy it of the progress, they enjoy it of the meta games. They have many layers that in real slots game you don't have, because in real slot game it's all about the money. And here we are providing the excitement along with more easy way to play. It's a freemium play, so you can play, basically all of our users can play without paying even $1. And again, it's now, and if you will ask yourself how many services, entertainment services, I'm using without getting something physical, because you are going back to the money. But money is getting something physical, and when you are paying Netflix, you don't get something. You are just sitting on your couch and see movie, and it's fun. And for me, if I'm a very fan of slots game, and so for me to play in scatter slot and to enjoy it, by using my phone, can be a better than see a movie. So why not? And I think that the main point that we need to be able, and you can see it from comparing like online slot game on real money and the social casino, that the social casino have a much more layer of entertainment in order to keep you excited about what is coming. So
my favorite answer to that question was like 8 years ago, just as these games started taking off, and a good friend of mine was designing them, and I asked him, and he said, "I have no idea." But I was like, "Fair enough." All right, I mean, so when you are talking about the social casino space, and people do have, the people that don't play have their perceptions. It's like, okay, well, whatever, you're doing a slot machine, or you're doing, poker, or these are games that have been around for years, centuries, sometimes even in the physical space. How do you diversify that offering, and are you targeting specific titles at specific demographics that you see coming, popping up and growing? But, how do you keep it fresh with something that's been around for, in the real world anyway, as long as it has?
So I will divide my answer to two. First of all, in order to insert more user, you need to do a good user acquisition. And good user acquisition is based on, for us, we are doing 95% of our budget is automatic managed. It's by auto bidding. And we have our prediction models, and it will take us to the question about the IDFA that is coming, and we basically know to predict, and we have our models to be able to acquire our audience that is more relevant for us, and then the conversion rate is better, and the CAC and CPI are lower. So from this end, we know how to do marketing. We have a very successful and professional marketing side, and our ML algorithms are learning all the time and improving the art even, and everything is being like automatically improved all the time, and we are learning how to promote. So this is one hand. From the other hand, yes, for main title that 5 years for us, for example, Scatter, 5 years in the industry. It's not easy to keep it fresh and to keep it innovated, but we have a great product team that create trends and know to provide this entertainment. And it's take you to the previous question. So why they are staying? So if it's not for the money, so why? Because we are providing good entertainment, and this is why you need to innovate and you need to create a great story for your players in order to stay.
So I know, one from my own experience, 10 years ago, as the social casino space was growing, it was very IP based, which intellectual property from movies or television or nostalgia or, what have you, that was what was pulling people in. And we see it in the real world today. My favorite slot machine to play when I do go out to Vegas is the Wheel of Fortune one. It just is. I don't know, why. Are you still seeing intellectual property and licensed IP, as essential now, or is it easier to build a strategy around original titles without having to worry about the licenses?
So it's an interesting question and a very good one. I see it, and again, it's my personal perception that if you create a good game, you don't need an IP. But this is again about your business model. There are many companies that base their success on IP and on familiar characters and so on. We are not acting that way, and I think we had, prior to my joining, there was an experiment and it was failed, and I can say that I believe that today it's more about to innovate and to create, for example, to create good slot, and with good meta games, with innovation feature that enable you to just play the slot and have fun, have excitement, things will happen. And if you are doing it good enough, so the scheme will not be very important, that it's IP or not IP. But if you are doing, let's say, more common slots that are very simple, so maybe then, yes, you need it, because it's a balance. You need to have something.
So based on that, what aspects of the market right now, and the genre, all of that, are you seeing as stale, and where do you think it's going to go in the next year and a half, especially for social casino games? What's missing? Where do you want these games to be in 12, 24 months?
So I think that the prediction for this year for the social casino was very moderate. They were talking about 5% increase, and basically that this market is full, and that there is a lot of potential to grow. But then we saw many new competitors that kind of take all the cards and change a lot of what we assume. So I think that it's given a lot of boost to the industry to continue grow. I believe that we will start see more mixed genre, that you will be like, it will be part slot, part meta game, that it will be combined. By the way, this is what we are doing right now in our accelerator. So to create a strong story that will be developed with the slot. So this is what I believe. And honestly, I believe that this industry will continue grow, but to the teams that will know to take advantage and to innovate and to understand that there is opportunities. Because I can say it was my concern also in the beginning of the year, the prediction was not good for the industry. And then there was a boom. And in addition to this boom, there is many new applications that basically are top ranked right now. And how they did it, they created great games. So again, it's about the content. If you have a good content, you can do it.
Is the primary market still women 35 and older for these games?
Mostly yes, and it's much more, let's say, woman than men's. It's, as I said in the beginning, it's kind of 65-35. In Murka, by the way, we have 50-50, and we have a little bit a younger audience also. So it's, again, if you find yourself this niche inside and you create something that a little bit different, it's enable you to act differently and to get a different result. So,
that's actually leading to the next question here. Are we at a point, where we're going to start seeing some, for lack of a better word, mid-core casino games? The competitive player versus player type stuff that we see in strategies and RPGs, for example. I mean, because match 3 games are as casual as they get, and now there's games like Gems of War. It's been around for like 6 years, doing this. Is it already there and I just haven't seen it, or because the market, this market far better than I do?
So look, we can see it as right now there are many features, let's say no totally games, if yes, so I'm not familiar with, that give you the social element that basically people are playing together, not ones against each other. I can say that we at Murka in Scatterslot, we have few meta feature with competition. That, for example, you have the board of snakes and ladders, and then you are competing other users. So it's kind of, and this is driven by the slot. But yes, to your question, I it's competition, but it's also a social element. So as long as the world is going to distancing, I believe that yes, the social element will continue grow, and maybe we will see some surprises. That there will be more competition and more engagement between the user. Also, the fact that yes, slots in the end of the day, it's like let's say it's you are playing with yourself. This is what was years ago. So, but yes, I do think that the social and the competition element will grow with the understanding that people want to engage and people want this personal connection.
All right, so the next question is from me, but I just saw our friend Indie Game Lover pop into the chat. And one, I hope you have some sleep that you've gotten over the last 24 hours, Indie Game Lover, because she's one of the folks that does so much work with the Pitchy Game project that went on, earlier this week. Do you see a opportunity out there for smaller indie teams to do stuff in this space, or is it going to continue to be, the playhouse of the bigger companies with the UA and all of that kind of good stuff?
So look, I think that the risk and the more challenge part for small teams is that they need to create a uniqueness. And they need to create a game that will, catch like a fire. Because yes, we have and bigger companies than us have the UA strategy, have the UA capabilities, they have the budget. You need a lot, millions of dollars in order to, launch a game successfully. But as we see every year, the industry is growing also with more competitors, more small studios. And I think that the advantage of those studios is the ability to move and to be very agile and to be very fast. Oh yes, I think that there is an opportunity, but they need not to do more of the same. They need to do something else. And in addition, the mobile gaming is one of the most invested area right now. Yes, you have a lot of money getting in. There is a lot of market of investors that want to get into this market. So basically, if you create yourself an opportunity, you will find the money. The money now need to go somewhere, and we saw it. If you compare Q2 was one of the lowest quarter from investment all around the world. The only industry that got more investment than previous year was the mobile gaming, the gaming industry. So a lot of money will get in, and a lot of money create also a lot of opportunity.
I mean, that's what I was going to ask, because I heard over the course of, the last 8 or 9 months, everything from, oh my God, the investors are hungry and they're all over the place, to, companies throwing up their hands and swearing that there was no investment opportunity out there at all. So it has, I mean, it has grown over the last year. We didn't lose, that much investment, is what you're saying?
I said that we didn't lose, we even have more investment. And I think this trend will continue, as it's one of the growing industry. Yes, not many industry grow in this time, and I think it will be a consistent growth. It's industry that were growing much fast before, so now it's even more driven to grow, which another industry are declining or even disappearing. So yes, and I think that people that are more like inside it know that also evaluation of companies and what you can get on what you have is going high right now. So because there is a lot of money, and then companies are increasing their evaluation and their self-evaluation basically, which is good. We saw a few mega transactions in the last few months, and I believe this trend will continue. But in the end of the day, if you're asking about the big teams, the big and stable company versus the small one, so I can say that Murka is a little bit, it's kind of in the middle. At the end of the day, the big companies most of them have a strategy of M&A, so they are kind of eating the small companies and creating a much bigger organization, which is good because there are all the time there is changing and so on.
So I know we're almost up to our hour here. You're busy. I don't want to keep us going too long. So if you've got a question out there, toss it in chat. Let us, hit it up in the next 4 or 5 minutes. What are some of the warning signs that a company should look for, as they're in, the game space, so that they don't get, left behind? Obviously game development has always been something where you're constantly shooting at a moving target when it comes to, gameplay and tech and all this other stuff. But, what are some of those things that companies need to look out for, that need to be paying attention to, so they don't get left out to dry?
So I think that the first point, which is, by the way, to each industry, but especially in our industry, it's not to get in love with your product and to be open to the option that you did mistake and the user didn't like what you have done, and to be basically the industry is very data driven. But in order to be real data driven, you need to be not to put aside this psychological bias that tell you, okay, this is what I want to be, and then bring in numbers that will support it. So to be, from one end, to not get in love, and from other end, to be a data driven, this will help you to be scalable and to adapt accordingly. And I think that the second point, which is very important, to create all the time. So I can say that in Murka, we had a phase that we didn't develop new games. And we understand that in order to grow, not this year in 40%, but each year in 40% and even more, we must create more and more and more games to check the market, to see if it's working, to release, to adapt, to release, to adapt all the time, quantity, quantity, quantity. And at the end of the day, you will catch this quality, and this will help you to be in the loop, basically.
And that's it. I mean, because we know that we have to constantly iterate. I think the challenge for a lot of indie teams is they just don't have the resources to be able to do that. It's one of the reasons that I love these pitchy game things that Liam and Tom and Indie Game Lover have been doing, because every month the developers can sit down and show what they're doing and say, hey, look, this is what we did the last month and this is what we did this month. So I agree. It's just one of those things that is hard for a lot of these smaller studios to do it,
So
even though we all know they should.
I can give a tip on this. So what I'm suggesting to do is to keep a unit inside your company. It can be 10, 20%, which you are saving for this kind of thing. And you are very aggressive on the point that, but we need to finish it in this team. No, this is a separate team working all the time on creation. We decided 5, 6, 10 people, they are working on that. That's all. The other company on the revenue that basically keeping us alive and grow. So I think it's about decision and to be very aggressive about it, because sometimes you are deciding to have these people, but this is very urgent, and then you are start using them. So I think that this is a tip, and even smaller team. So you have a 20 people team, you can have 2 people that will generate the experiment.
Just like what was the disaster movie where they sent Bruce Willis and everybody to an asteroid to put a nuclear bomb in it or something ridiculous. And at one point they're sitting in there in NASA and he's like, but you're NASA. You have people just sitting in a room thinking shit up. That's what you do. And you really do. You need to have an aspect of your company that's sitting in a room and just, thinking shit up and working on it. Right. Thanks so much for coming on. This is awesome. And I'm glad we were able to get on here, and I appreciate all the advice. Do you have any closing thoughts, anything that you want to toss out there while we wrap it up?
So if I can talk about it, so the last sentence that I will say, even if you're a small company, sit, craft a business and growth strategy, understand what you want, define yourself milestone and main pillars that you want to achieve this year. Follow this plan. Don't get disappointed of things that are going wrong, and be based on this plan, be agile, but pre-thinking and pre-planning, this is the key for success. And thank you very much also for inviting me. It was a pleasure, and I hope that it was interesting to all our listeners.
I'm sure it is. That's what we do.
We bring stuff to the stuff. That's what we do.
Exactly. So yeah, as always, if I see Indie Game Lover, she says she missed a lot of it. All of our stuff is always available on YouTube. It's free. There's no paywall. Go to our YouTube page. It's Indie Game Business. You can find it on our Facebook page as well. Basically, go wherever you need to go and search for Indie Game Business, and you'll find us, our podcast, and these streams and everywhere else. So don't forget, if you aren't on our Discord, we've got a awesome community of over 1,900 industry professionals at this point. So just go to discord.gg/indiegamebusiness. We'll get that set up. And yeah, this has been fantastic. And so if anybody's got questions, Barak will be, around somewhat on the Discord server, but always happy to help. And I appreciate you coming out and taking time to do this. And we'll talk soon.
Yeah, and also I just want to add one more thing. We're raising money for kids with our Extra Life. It's extra-life.org/team/indie game business, and let's help raise some money for kids. We'd appreciate it very much.
We're doing so. You can either do a donation directly, or you can join the team and help us do it on your own. So yeah. All righty. Thank you much,
everybody. Thank you, Barak.
Thank you.
The rest of your Friday and your weekend. And so be safe, everyone, and we'll see you next week.